Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in. And after some perseverance, Glenn Fraser has managed to connect, and I'm very, very excited to introduce him to all of you. I have been an admirer of his tie dye for a very, very long time, so I'm very excited to be talking to him today. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us. And please, will you tell us a little bit more about your tie dye, how you got into it, why you love it, and what you do with it?
Right. Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm flattered to be in the group that you have welcomed on your live streams here. I started tie dyeing. I had a pair of white pants in high school that I tie dyed, and I had to go to work. They were stained. No stains were allowed, so I went ahead and threw tie dye on them, and I was reluctantly fired. You know, it was sacking groceries, no big deal. But after that, I moved to Stillwater, Oklahoma. Got involved with people that I knew from high school that were musicians. We tie dyed and rock climbed, and then they started a band, and I was the sound engineer for that band. Meanwhile, I was printing T-shirts for a company called Eskimo Joe's, and we were printing band T-shirts. Once the band T-shirts all sold, uh, I started tie dyeing to get to sell more. In
Okay.
between this, I'm seeing the Grateful Dead off and on, and I finally find my one shirt that at the show that I love, and I wore it out, and I wore it to the point where it was falling off my body. And then after that, I pinned it to the wall and got into tie dye from there, trying to figure out how to make something as cool as that shirt. I wish I still had it to show, but um, so while printing T-shirts, while tie dyeing, while running sound for the band, while seeing the Grateful Dead, on and off throughout my life, just tie dyeing here and there. Met my wife.
Okay.
We had a kid. She passed away, and so I was a stay-at-home dad, and I needed something to pay the bills. So I started tie dyeing again, and was on MySpace selling tie dyes, and I found Facebook right after MySpace caved, and started my own groups and started my own technique. In the process of trying to replicate that tie dye, I found something totally different, and it's what I'm doing now. And it's an obsession, and I'm not sure where I'm going, because I'm trying to get that ultimate tie dye. And once it gets to the ultimate tie dye, I don't know where to go from there. It's just a never ending battle, really. Of there's just no end to this, and it's an obsession of 10 tie dyes a day right now. And I'm just really, really thankful that everybody loves them, so I don't have my every closet full, for one, of tie dyes that I don't get out much these days. So the internet and Facebook was a happy accident, really. So
Mm.
I run a couple of groups. I run the tie dyeing group on Facebook, and I also run a Grateful Dead group called Dead Lot, which is, in those two groups alone, it is 100,000 people, so,
Mm.
or close to it. So I have access to a big crowd, and they're the people that I want in my tie dyes. So they love them. I love that they love them, and it's just a back and forth of love. It's once somebody says, "Oh, I love your stuff. I gotta have one," it prompts me to make 20 more. And it's like, it's kind of,
Uh-huh.
I told my accountant that it's kind of a loser's game, because you make a tie dye and somebody goes, "Wow, I'd buy
Mm.
that," and then you make
Mm.
20 more, and you
Mm.
can't find those people anymore. So you hold on to those 20 T-shirts for 5 years until somebody sees it again. It's like, hey, I'd buy that. So you make 20 more. And for the
Mm.
longest time, I had boxes full of these things, and
Mm.
and they were mostly rejects, trying to find a certain pattern that worked. And there are so many variables to my tie dyes that it's hard for me to give a tutorial. It's hard for me to show or teach anybody. And anybody I have taught um, didn't know the safety part of it. Didn't
Mm,
know that soda ash was caustic. Didn't
mm.
know that dye doesn't come out in carpet. So it was really hard to. It's really hard to sit down and just teach somebody what I'm doing
Mm,
when I'm still, I plateau time after time, every thousand or so shirts, and I'm still in the learning process. So it's not a definitive. And
mm,
I kind of think and hope that my tie dyes are getting better and better every time I do it. So that's just
mm.
life in my little bubble. So,
What a wonderful story. And when
well,
did you, how long have you been doing this for?
um, I've I've been I've had my Etsy website since 2011, so I've been
Okay.
selling them on the internet since 2011, and that was, I'm approaching 9,000 tie dyes sold.
Wow.
I think I'm at 89.95 today as of the last 10 I just opened today. So it's
Wow.
getting there, and I don't know what kind of party I'm going to throw at 10,000, but there'll be some big sale or some giveaway, or I don't know. It's like
I,
discounts. Who knows? I just don't know what to do with it. I'm flying by the seat of my pants and have been for the past 9 years. So
I love that you've made almost 9,000 of them and you still feel like you're learning.
I am. I do. And it wasn't that long ago that I came out with the certain pattern, and the front was great. The back was kind of a tell all of, you look at the back and you can tell exactly how I'm doing them, which
Mm,
I wanted the front to look like the back. So I had to start writing things down, which I'm horrible at the
okay.
process. And
Yes.
so having this many shirts to do, 10 a day, you start to remember what you did yesterday. But
Yes.
I finally took 8 shirts, folded them differently and dyed them differently and wrote everything down. And there was one out of the 8 that gave me the look of a perfect front and a perfect back. And that was
Okay.
probably 3 years ago. So
Okay.
the back was still different than the front.
Mm,
And I just couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong or what I wasn't doing. And
mm,
finally, out of a stroke of accident, I figured it out. And they're they're at their best point and the highest point that I can get. So I get my t-shirts from a screen printing wholesale place, and I
mm,
try to use the best quality products I can find with the best dye at the best prices.
mm,
I would only pay personally, a certain amount for a shirt. So I try to
mm.
keep it right around that area of what I would pay. And
Okay.
it's not the money really. It's the people that say, I love your tie dyes. And man, that just gets me. And that's where it's at. It's like, and if you can just relax a little bit and let the things happen and let the people get them, then it makes it a lot easier than trying to start a business or trying to pay the bills. Or I was raising a child for 15 years, and I was almost a perfect example of what not to be. But it, it turns out that I'm doing pretty well, and it's more of a full-time job now, which I was doing it for fun and leisure money, you know,
Yes.
but now I'm working my butt off, so
That's such a
yeah,
wonderful story because I know when I started making tie-dye in 1993, my brother said to me, "You will never be able to make this into a business."
right. Nobody
Have
ever
you
told me
encountered
that. No,
that?
no, I've been totally isolated. That after this the pandemic lockdown, I realized that I've been shelter in place since about 2003. So this is really no big deal. But I don't have any outside input other than the
Okay.
people that like my tie dyes online. That you know, most of the people on my friends list I have never met in my life. I don't know them. I know about 50 people on my friends list from high school and from my music business days and frisbee golf days and my Grateful Dead days. So it's like at 52, I've got all these different lifetimes of friends
Mm,
that I can, that, most of them wouldn't be caught dead in a tie dye.
Okay.
But the people that I like are the people are the ones that love tie dyes. It's like
Yes.
all my music fans and all the Grateful Dead fans, and I have some high school friends that like them too. So, but really in Oklahoma, I sell very little in my state or in my town. You
Okay.
know,
Is
I've
it a more conservative environment?
very conservative. And I
Okay.
had a shop for 2 years, and it turned out my online sales were paying the rent and the utilities for the place.
Wow.
So I just decided to close. This is Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's a very conservative city. It's the most liberal city in Oklahoma, but still they aren't ready for tie dyes. And it's
Okay.
not quite the capital, tie dye capital of the world just yet, but I'm still trying.
I love it. I love it. And your son, does he wear tie-dye?
Yes, he's been wearing tie dye since he was born. So
Okay.
I've got pictures all through his life, and never really had to buy the school clothes because he always wanted to wear a tie dye, and he wears
Okay.
them. It's his thing now. He's 22, and it's his thing now. And he's
Okay.
got super long hair and a super long beard, and is that's his thing, and tie dyes. So
Is he making them with you?
no, he doesn't. He took a career path, and he's an IT professional. Right now, he's
Okay.
working. Right now, he's working from home, so he's sucking up a lot of the bandwidth on our internet connection. So that's why I was
Okay.
a little bit scrambled on getting, you know, our broadcast going without it being
Yes.
jittery and looking like I was in the windswept fields of Oklahoma.
Well, you got it right now. So thank you so much. I'm so excited to be talking to you.
It's exciting to talk to you too. I've known you for a long time, like many people on Facebook, and I've never talked to most of you all, or most of you and
Yes.
you. And you comment a lot, and I comment on your stuff, and we've become friends. And it's really a weird dynamic that there's so many people that I am so close to that I've never met or even seen. So,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I love these
Yes.
people.
Yes, yes, yeah. I decided to start doing these interviews as about a month ago, and I'm really loving finally connecting properly with so many people that I've kind of skimmed the surface with for so long. It's so nice to see
Sure.
your faces and your excitement and your enthusiasm for what you do and all of that.
It
When
really
you
is.
were when you
Go
were a
ahead.
kid, did you actually think that you'd? I'm sure this is not a career path that you'd pictured for yourself.
No, when I was a little kid, I either wanted to be a school teacher or a race car driver, or both.
Okay,
And
this is neither.
this is neither. Well, I got my associate's degree in elementary education, and then our life turned, and I realized that I didn't want to raise everybody else's kid when my kid needed me the most. So
Mm.
I went back to my screen printing. I have a screen printing press in my garage, and I do little accounts for restaurants, and I incorporate my tie dyes in there if they can afford them, and if they want tie dyes, I can provide them. But mostly the screen printing has gone by the wayside because I don't have time. I'm making tie
Okay.
dyes and I can barely keep up. So
Wow.
it, thankfully,
Yes. Yes. So how many do you make in a month?
well, I make about 10 a day at this rate.
Okay.
So 300.
Wow. And do you make them start to finish in a day, or do you kind of? So I know when I was mass producing, I used to, on a Monday, I used to tie all of them. Well, I'd go to suppliers on Monday and I'd tie all of them on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I'd dye all of them on Thursday and wash them all out on Friday, kind of a thing. Or do you do a batch on one day and then another batch the next day?
Well, I think that every t-shirt and every tie-dye deserves singular attention. It's
Mm,
like I ring it. I have all my stuff soaking for the next day. I wake
mm,
up early in the morning at the crack of dawn, and I start washing. And while I'm washing, I will fold. And most of the time, I will fold one shirt, dye it, bag it up, go to the next one, fold one, but I'll
okay.
wring them all out at the same time. It's a day to
Yes.
day process. and it takes about a good 15 minutes to make each one with my process. So,
Mm.
but that's, when you're talking 10, that's 2.5 hours of sitting in my, my laundry room, which there's
Mm.
not great ventilation, and it gets hot, and I'm on my feet all the time. And of course, I'm
Mm.
extremely lazy. So 2 hours of work is a lot for me. But,
And have
but
you?
really, my hands get tired and my back gets tired, and
Mm.
I've got adult things to do. I took my kid from school to school every day, and I made him breakfast, and I cooked 3 times a day and keep the yard picked up. So I really don't have, all day to just sit around. And I'm not that lazy. I'm on my feet all day. It's just I don't want to do one particular thing for 8 hours,
Yes,
But
yes,
when I can crank out two or three at a time, go mow the lawn, come in, crank out two or three more, and by the end of the day, there's 10. I try
yes,
to keep it a schedule and try to give myself a day off, but a day off means no tie dyes tomorrow. So,
yes,
and it's all about opening them and seeing your creation and the thrill of it, and then posting them as fast as you can so people can see them, you know. And then it's a repetitive process that is just a rabbit hole that never ends. It's really
yes,
a fascinating deal. I don't know where, I can't get that one tie dye and go, okay, I'm finished, I'm done, this is the one, the swan song. It'll never happen. But I do get a lot of people like, oh, that is the one, this one right here is the one. Then so they show it to all their friends, and I'm very thankful for it. Just charges me up to make 20 more or 30 more when somebody says that they like them, because it's like it's just a great deal. It's
yes,
become a full-time job, which I never intended it to be a full-time job. And
yes,
if I didn't have to, once you have to do something, it takes the fun out of it a little bit. And
yes.
that's the same thing I ran into with my shop. It's like, so I had this shop, I got a good deal on the rent there, and but I couldn't make tie dyes there. So I had to
Okay.
stay open 8 hours, and then I'd have to come home and make tie dyes. And then I'd go back the next day and do all the accounting work and do all the stuff that just kept me in this building, it drove me crazy. I needed
Mm.
to be outside. I don't need to be latched down to anything. So I was really thankful to go ahead and close the shop. And especially since there's a pandemic now,
Mm.
um, it wouldn't be very feasible to pay my own bills and have to pay till January rent on a
Yes,
place that wasn't generating any cash flow. So,
yes,
and
yes.
that place was turning into a screen printing shop, and I just bought a giant yummy tie dye sign, and I spent a good piece of money on it, and I was getting ready to think maybe I have to change my sign because I was running out of tie dyes. I couldn't come home and be a dad and make enough tie dyes to fill this place. And it was just, but I kept getting screen printing jobs for churches and restaurants, and that would just consume all my time. And
Mm.
while that's good money and that's probably a better paycheck with less work, it's just not as gratifying.
Yes,
Printing the same thing over and over when I can make 10 tie dyes that look totally different.
yes, yes. It sounds to me like you're a great dad and that you know where your priorities are around fatherhood. And
Well,
that's something
we
that a
don't
lot
have
of
much
people lose
choice.
sight of.
Well, we don't have much choice but to raise our children better than we have been raised ourselves. It's like
Yes.
he really needed me, at a time where his mom was gone, and, my wife was gone. And I realized real soon that, I can't function in this state. And he's the one that really pulled me out of it. So I'm very grateful for him. And he's just a great kid and makes my fatherhood look like I'm a pro. I have military people asking me, "Were you in the military? Because your kid is very well behaved." And I was like, exactly the opposite. I'm the only kid in my family that didn't go to the military. So
Okay. Okay. And how does your military family feel about what you do for a living?
Um, they are pretty standoffish.
Okay.
They don't think it's very serious. The religious side, which there's a lot of religion in my family, thinks I'm a heathen. As
Okay.
far as I can tell, and kind of keep the kids away from the hippie kind of thing.
Okay.
Which that's fine. That's but I've developed relationships with the family that I've been kept away from, and I'm not saying that the I'm the black sheep, but I'm not blackballed from the family. So
Yes.
I try to keep a certain amount of respect for my mother and my family and their values, and I can't really tell them that they're doing right or wrong when I have a hard time knowing that myself. I just kind of got to trust my intuition on doing what's right, doing what's right for my kid, doing what's right
Yes.
for my future and his future. And gosh, I couldn't have ever imagined that we would have made it this far and that he's still alive. I mean, it wasn't that bad him growing up because as a single father, you have to try harder because there's a mother and father everywhere else. And
Yes.
so, everything that he was involved in involved the mothers because it seems like fathers aren't involved as much.
Mm,
Everybody's working. If it's not just a nanny raising the children.
mm,
And I always promised my wife that there would always be a parent at home and that if something happened, we're just going to have to do what we can and do what we have to be have a parent at home so he wouldn't be a displaced latchkey kid or would
mm,
have a fundamental background of knowing right from wrong without
mm,
the TV teaching him or so he wasn't ever a big TV watcher and I watched the news and that's it. We still don't have a cable subscription, so I'm not a we don't have the TV on hardly ever. I listen to the radio and get my news on the internet and NPR and
mm,
BBC. So
mm,
and it keeps me probably more informed than what we get here in the U.S.
mm,
on
mm,
our basic cable news access. So
mm,
I'm kind of thankful for that, and I kind of I've grown into my own value set,
mm,
if you will, and
mm,
uh, I trying to give myself the respect that um, I don't get externally, because we're pretty
mm.
isolated anyway, like I said earlier. So I just have to trust what I know is right. And while many people need guidance, I try to trust myself. So,
Mm.
and moving into the tie dye business isn't the wisest decision, at first, but it has worked out for me, and I'm very grateful, very thankful for it all.
I think you've smashed so many preconceived paradigms with this. I think it's absolutely magical, you know. I know my family is still waiting for me to get a real job. Um, so,
Well, yeah,
I think it's
the first time
amazing that
yeah, the first time
you've been.
when Chris, go ahead.
I think it's amazing that you've created this great framework for fatherhood, and that
Yeah,
you've shown
well,
up for your kid, and that you've done all the things that a good father does,
sure.
uh,
Well,
in spite
like
of
I said
having.
earlier, yeah, well, like I said earlier, we don't have much choice these days but to be the best for our children. And when, like I said, I got an associate's in elementary education, so I was doing a lot of uh, work with the school, and I just had these kids just flocking to me because I would give them attention. These little girls just grabbing onto me, wanting me to be dad because their
Mm,
father wasn't present. Like
mm,
you'd question these little kids, like, "What does your mother and father do?" And it's like, "Well, mom's at home and dad works." Well, what does your dad do?
Mm,
he works. And so that's
mm,
all they know of their dad, the guy that comes home late at night and just wants to read the paper, and while
mm.
mom or nanny takes care of everything. So I, I think I've covered this previously, but I didn't want that for my kid. I wanted
Mm.
him to know who his parents were, know, physically, genetically. I tried to teach him about his mother as much as possible, and we have pictures everywhere. And I talk about her still to this day as if she was still here. So um, it's trying to be that parent and trying. The only problem is I have nobody to blame if I make a bad decision, so I have to make that right. It's like it's her fault. It's her fault. She did it. It's like, so I have that. So it's like, and when it really takes a village to raise a child, I tried to be all that. I didn't really have much
Mm,
support. Everybody
mm.
else was busy, or my mom raised foster kids for a long time, and she is the one I get my values from. She
Okay,
was she she's the one that taught me to be who I am and to
yes.
stick up for myself and to all the good things a mom tells their kid to do.
I think she did a fantastic job. So
Well, thank you.
what is your favorite part about making tie-dye?
um well, probably the gratification of people liking them and people just giving me a like. You know, the rest of it, I really don't like. It's like, I mean,
Okay.
I don't like mixing dye. I don't like wringing the shirts out. You know, I do like folding them, but it's kind of a repetitious thing. And if I don't have music, or if I'm doing adult stuff, it's really hard to get in there and start.
Okay.
It's like it's really like pulling teeth just to get in there and make two tie dyes. Like, oh, it, it just kind of kills me. So it's the washing out isn't the greatest fun, and it's like opening them up out of the dryer and seeing all your mistakes. Yeah, that can be great and learning. And these days I don't find a whole lot of mistakes. I know pretty much what's going to happen. So there's no mystery there. And it's not like Christmas every day anymore. It's
Okay.
more like a job. So, I do love it. I do love making them, but it's the gratification I get that other people like them. It's like,
Oh, that's
as you
beautiful.
can see, as you can see, rare, I'm not wearing tie dye. I find comfort in solids because I see so much rainbow. And with screen print, being a screen printer, I don't like to wear screen printed advertisements. I just like a solid black shirt or a solid blue shirt, and it kind of brings me peace. It's like the salt with caramel.
Mm.
If the caramel's too sweet and you add a little bit of salt to it, it's perfect, and it kind of gives that counterbalance.
Yes.
Like milk with a cookie or something. So it's
Yes.
um, a solid color just kind of relaxes me, and my house is all kind of off greens and off browns and neutral natural colors, and here I'm just cranking out these bright rainbows. So it's a kind of a you know it's the salt to the caramel, the sweet and sour that makes it one great flavor, I guess.
I love it. I love it. So,
So I'm happy doing what I do, and I love it. I'm so fortunate to be able to do this.
yes. So, I see we're coming near the end of our time. Thank you so much for sharing your inspiring story with me.
Thank
Uh, I've always
Well,
loved
thank you
your
very much for the invitation.
I've always loved your tie dye, and now I can tell you that I respect the man too.
Well, thank you very much. And that's all I
Okay.
can ask for is respect.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, and I look forward to seeing you on all your groups.
Yes. Look forward to seeing you too. Have a good day.